Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something really pushing the limits of home networking. We're talking high-performance Wi-Fi, especially, for serious online gaming. We've been digging into a pretty comprehensive review of the Asus ROG Rapture GT-BE98 Pro, and, well, it's quite the piece of hardware. Our quest today really is to dissect this device. The review we looked at calls it an absolute beast, and we're not just going to read off specs. We want to understand if this hardware monster actually delivers on that Wi-Fi 7 domination promise, and maybe more importantly, what that actually means for your gaming setup or maybe your high bandwidth needs at home.
Yeah, what's really illuminating here is just how many layers of engineering and design go into a device like this. You've got the raw processing power, sure, but then there are all the nuanced Wi-Fi 7 technologies baked in. So we'll be looking at the practical side of things, its features, those performance scores, trying to help you understand not just what it does, but, why it could genuinely change your network experience.
Okay, so first impressions. Yeah. If you're picturing like a sleek little box that blends in, think again. Let's get into its physical presence first, because this thing is, well, it's not subtle. It's described as massive. It's this regular hexagon shape, roughly 8.6 by 13.7 inches, and weighs 4.4 pounds. Definitely designed to be, a centerpiece on a
I
desk.
want to make a statement.
It does. And beyond just the size, it's got 8 adjustable external antennas. Plus, get this, 16 internal ones for better signal and for flare. The top has these tiny LEDs making the Republic of Gamers the ROG logo. Yeah. With customizable or RGB effects, breathing, wave, static, rainbow, all that stuff. Oh, and there's even a see-through panel showing off a gaming-themed mural inside. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it raises that question, why so big? Why such a substantial design? And it's really not just for looks, though that's part of the ROG brand, I guess. The review highlights a pretty sophisticated cooling system. There's a specially designed vent, an internal heatsink, a heat plate assembly. They all work together to keep the insides cool. And that's absolutely critical for keeping performance high, especially when you're pushing it hard.
Right. Thermal throttling is the enemy.
Exactly. And underneath that impressive shell, there's a 2.7 gigahertz quad-core CPU, 256 megs of flash memory, and 2 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, that's serious processing power for a router. The source calls it a CPU fit for a computer, and that's not really an exaggeration. It needs that power to handle all the traffic and the complex Wi-Fi 7 calculations without, breaking a sweat.
Okay, so you've got this powerhouse engine. Needs the pipes to match, right?
Yeah.
And the review mentions an arsenal of high-speed I/O ports. Let's break that down. We're talking a 10 gigabit Ethernet 10 GBE WAN LAN port, a 2.5 GBE WAN LAN port, 3 more 2.5 GBE LAN ports, and this is pretty key, a dedicated 10 GBE gaming LAN port. That's a lot of multi-gig options.
Mm-hmm. And connecting that to the bigger picture, that dedicated 10 GBE gaming port, that's a real standout feature. It's not just another fast port, it automatically prioritizes bandwidth for whatever device is plugged into it. So for serious gamers trying to minimize latency, that's huge. Your game traffic basically gets to cut in line.
Ah, okay. Built-in quality of service, but hardware-based.
Sort of, yeah, prioritized by port. Plus, all the LAN ports support link aggregation, which means you could potentially combine, say, 2.5 GBE ports for super fast connection to a NAS or something, if your other gear supports it.
Right, more bandwidth or maybe redundancy.
Exactly. And you also get USB ports, a USB 3.2 Gen 1, and a USB 2.0 for hooking up external storage.
Okay, so powerful core, lots of fast connections. But the main event here is Wi-Fi 7, right? 802.11 BB. This router is rated BE30000. So what does that number actually mean for you, the listener, in practical terms?
Right, that B30000 number,
Yeah.
It represents the total theoretical data speed across all its radio bands added together. It's a big marketing number, essentially. But if you dig into the specifics, it's impressive. It can theoretically hit speeds up to 376 megabits per second on the 2.4 gigahertz band, up to 5,764 millihertz on the 5 gigahertz band, and then a really remarkable 11,529 milliRPs on each of its two 6 gigahertz bands.
Two 6 gigahertz bands. Wow.
Yeah, dual 6 gigahertz. And how it gets those speeds is where the Wi-Fi 7 magic comes in. We're talking cutting-edge tech, things like 4K QAM, which packs way more data into the signal compared to older standards. 320 millihertz channel with basically super wide radio lanes for your data, double what Wi-Fi 6E offered on 6 gigahertz.
Okay, wider channels, more speed.
Exactly. Then there's direct-to-client beamforming, where the router focuses the signal right at your device. MU-MIMO data streaming, letting it talk effectively to multiple devices at the same time. And OFDMA transmissions, which efficiently carve up the bandwidth for lots of smaller data packets, great for IoT devices, and reducing latency.
Right. Seems like a lot of efficiency improvements, too.
Definitely. And maybe the biggest Wi-Fi 7 feature it supports is the Multi-Link Operation Protocol, or MLO. This is pretty groundbreaking. It lets compatible devices connect and send receive data over multiple bands like 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz simultaneously.
Oh, interesting. So not just switching between bands, but using them together.
Precisely. Imagine driving on two highways at once. It can mean much higher throughput, lower latency, and better reliability, especially in congested areas. It's a core part of the Wi-Fi 7 promise.
Gotcha. And what if you want to expand coverage? Does it play nice with other routers?
Yeah, the source notes, it works with Asus mesh technology. So you could use this, beast of a router as the main unit or even as a node in a larger mesh system with other compatible Asus routers.
Okay, good flexibility there. Now, this router clearly leans into the gaming aspect, right? The ROG branding, the design. It's not just about raw speed. It's packed with features specifically for gamers.
Absolutely. Things like Game Boost, which analyzes your network traffic and automatically prioritizes gaming packets. There's also Game Radar, which is kind of neat. It helps you check the ping times to different game servers around the world so you can pick the best one before you connect.
To minimize lag before you even start playing.
Exactly. It also includes open NAT features to help simplify hosting or joining games and other game acceleration tools. But it's not only about gaming. There's also AiProtection Pro software, which is powered by Trend Micro. That gives you pretty robust network security and parental controls.
Like what kind of controls?
Things like age-based website filtering. You can see usage statistics per device, set time schedules for internet access, the usual stuff, but quite comprehensive. On the security side, you get Asus Instant Guard VPN, lets you create a secure tunnel back to your home network when you're out and about. Plus, regular security scans, blocking malicious websites, and it can even detect and block infected devices on your network from spreading anything.
That sounds pretty solid, actually. How do you manage all this? Is it complicated?
You've got options. There's an easy-to-use mobile app for the basics and common settings, or for more advanced users, there's a full web-based management console. That console even has a cool dashboard with like a real-time network traffic graph and your average network ping time.
Okay, so it caters to both simpler setup and deep dive tweaking.
Pretty much, yeah.
So those gaming and security features sound incredibly comprehensive. But let me ask this. For someone who isn't, say, a hardcore gamer or maybe lives in a home with less intense network demands, does this router still offer enough unique value? Or is some of these specialized features kind of overkill if you're not going to use them all?
That is an excellent point, and it's fair. While the gaming stuff is definitely a major selling point, the ROG branding demands it. The core Wi-Fi 7 tech and those high-speed ports, they offer pretty substantial benefits even if you don't game. Think about content creators uploading huge video files or remote workers constantly syncing large data sets, or just a busy household with multiple 4K streams happening at once.
High bandwidth use cases beyond just gaming.
Exactly. The raw speed, the efficiency gains from Wi-Fi 7, the future-proofing aspect, having those multi-gig ports available, that's valuable for any demanding user. And things like the robust security, the parental controls, well, those are useful for pretty much any home network, gamer or not. So I'd say it really comes down to how much you value being on the absolute bleeding edge of speed and connectivity for any demanding task, not just gaming specifically.
That makes sense. Okay, let's talk setup and performance. The review mentioned installation was quick and easy, always good to hear for a complex device.
Yep, reportedly straightforward.
But the real question, how did this monster actually perform in the lab tests? Let's get to the numbers.
Okay, so on the 6 gigahertz band, this is where it really shone. The GT-BE98 Pro delivered, and I quote, the fastest 6 gigahertz throughput scores we've seen from any router in this particular review. For example, in a close proximity test like same room, it had an absolutely staggering 3,075 megabits per second.
Whoa! Over 3 gigabits per second wirelessly.
Yeah. Significantly faster than the comparison model mentioned, the TP-Link BE800, in that specific test. And even at 30 feet away, it still managed 442 millips on 6 gigahertz, which also beat the competitor pretty handily.
Okay, those 6 gigahertz speeds are undeniably impressive, a real showcase for Wi-Fi 7's potential, right?
Absolutely.
But what about the older bands, the ones most of our devices still use day-to-day, like 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz?
Yeah.
Does focusing so much on 6 gigahertz mean it compromises on those, maybe for devices that aren't Wi-Fi 7 ready yet?
That's a really crucial distinction to make, and yeah, the results were a bit more nuanced there. On the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz tests, the GT-BE98 Pro was still very, very fast. Don't get me wrong. For instance, it hit 128 millipedes close up on the 5 gigahertz band. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Still very quick.
Very quick. However, interestingly, the TP-Link B800 comparison router actually turned in slightly faster scores on those specific 2.4 and 5 gigahertz band tests. So it does raise that point. The primary record-breaking performance gains seem really focused on that 6 gigahertz band, especially with compatible Wi-Fi 7 client devices. It's still excellent on the other bands, but its main advantage, its dominance, is clearly on 6 gigahertz.
Okay, that's important context. What about signal strength around a house? Real-world coverage. The review included signal maps.
Yes, it did. And they showed pretty strong 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz signals throughout the test house, which, you'd expect from a premium router like this with all those antennas. However, the maps also highlighted a known characteristic of 6 gigahertz signal.
The range limitation.
Exactly. The 6 gigahertz signal strength dropped off noticeably faster with distance and through walls compared to 5 gigahertz. The review explicitly notes that the immense speed that 6 gigahertz promises is really only useful if you're in the same room as the router or, very close by without major obstructions. That's just the physics of higher frequency radio waves currently. It impacts the practical whole home reach of that top tier speed, at least for now.
Right, so super fast, but maybe only in the room where the router lives.
Pretty much for that maximum 6 gigahertz speed, yeah.
Okay, so we've looked at the specs, the huge list of features, the performance impressive, but with that 6 gigahertz range caveat. Let's bring it all together. What does this mean for you, the listener, considering that price tag? It's listed at $799.99, though the review saw it for $629 on Amazon. That's still a lot of money for a router.
It absolutely is. This router is positioned as an excellent choice if your main goal is future-proofing your network with basically the fastest Wi-Fi 7 router available right now. The pros are pretty clear. You get that cutting-edge Wi-Fi 7 with the wide 320 megahertz channels and MLO support. You get that arsenal of 10 GBE and multi-gig ports. You get truly blazing, unmatched 6 gigahertz throughput. Plus, all those extensive gamer-friendly customizations and the robust security package. It's really built for the bleeding edge.
And the downsides, besides the price, we mentioned the size. Anything else?
Well, the main cons are definitely the cost. The review calls it a sizable investment, which feels accurate. And yeah, it's bulky physical size. It's not fitting discreetly on a bookshelf. And that 6 gigahertz range limitation is a practical consideration, even if the speed itself is amazing up close.
So if someone needs 6 gigahertz, and maybe for density reasons, but doesn't want to spend that much.
The source suggests considering a good Wi-Fi 6E router, like the TP-Link Archer AXE75 mentioned in the review. That could save you like $600.
Wow, big difference.
Huge difference. But you have to understand the trade-offs, right? A Wi-Fi 6E router won't give you the Wi-Fi 7 advancements like MLO or 320 megahertz channels. It won't have the same level of multi-gig port options, especially not the 10 GBE ports, and it won't hit those same peak speeds on the 6 gigahertz band. So it really boils down to, do you need to be right at the very forefront today and are willing to pay for it, or is very good with Wi-Fi 6E enough for now?
Okay, that clarifies the choice quite a bit. So this deep dive into the Asus ROG Rapture GT-BE98 Pro, it really paints a picture of how far home networking has come, especially for those people who demand the absolute best, particularly gamers or anyone looking to be right on the cutting edge of Wi-Fi tech. It's a serious powerhouse.
It really is. And while that 6 gigahertz speed is, genuinely game-changing when you can use it effectively, its current range limitations, being most effective basically in the same room, that raises an interesting thought for the future, doesn't it? As more Wi-Fi 7 client devices, phones, laptops, whatever, become common and maybe more affordable, and perhaps technology improves their ability to use that 6 gigahertz band effectively at slightly longer ranges, how will that balance